Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I am here with one of our at-large city councilors, Councilor Kalinowsky. Karen, thank you for doing this today.
And thank you for allowing me to.
And before we get into it, I do want to mention one thing. I do get not a lot of messages, but I've received a few messages from some of you asking why Councilor Kalinowsky is one of the only city councilors I have on so much. And it's an easy answer to that. Karen is really one of the only city councilors that messages me and asks if she can come on the platform. I never say no to anyone on the council or anyone in city government that does want to come on the show. So often I reach out to some of the other councilors, but that answers your question. I hope that is why. Karen is very accessible and she always messages me, so I'm grateful to have you on. So again, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, and thank you for allowing me to.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last city council meeting, which was Tuesday, the January 24th, I've received quite a few messages on that one, and it was a very interesting one in many ways. So before we get into the big topic that I want to discuss, I did get a few messages from people asking what was happening with our Ward 6 city councilor and Ward 2 city councilor, which is Charles Cronick and Dina Lampiazzi. Do you know what that was about? It looked like a feud of some sort.
You know, I think it would be better if you had one of them come on your show and explain it to you better than I could. Okay,
so you were just a spectator like the rest of us?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. And you're usually a drama-free person anyway, but I thought I'd ask. So the other thing that was discussed, and this was based off a petition that came from you, was asking to get it on the ballot for the voters to be able to decide what to do with North Street regarding the traffic patterns and the bike lanes and all that, because that's been a huge discussion in the community since it was implemented.
Yes, I've actually been working on it since I got voted in. Last winter, I went around to the businesses and got signatures from the ones that wanted to, business owners that would like to have seen North Street switched back to the way it was. I know I had a few citizens on the petition too. At that time, I brought it forward to the mayor, asking the mayor first if once the time frame, they had a time frame, they had to have it up there.
As far as the bike lanes?
Yes.
Now that was when they got the grant, and I believed when they received it, there was like 20 days left to get the whole thing implemented to be able to use that grant.
Yes. They put it in quick, and then they revised it a second time, but the grant said they had to, it was kind of like an experiment, okay? You had to keep it in place for a certain period of time before you could make a change. So I was waiting for that period of time to be over.
Okay.
The mayor responded back saying no, she wasn't going to. So the next step of that first petition said that I would then bring it in front of the city council. So I sent for the legal paperwork. What it is, to put it on the ballot, it has to be in like a legal type format question with a yes and no. You know, if you vote yes for it, what are you voting for? If you vote no for it, what are you voting for? So I submitted that to Attorney Pignata, and it took me about 5 months to get it back.
So ultimately, though, it's just saying you believe that the voters, the residents, should decide of how North Street should be.
Yes, because there's so much. When I was campaigning, it was like the majority of people I spoke to did not like the bike lanes and wanted to switch back. And I believe the people should have that choice. They should be able to make that decision. So putting on the ballot would then put it in the voters' hands. They can decide whether they, want to keep it the way it is, or switch it back to, the 2 lanes of traffic on each side plus the turn lanes.
Now, I myself am a cyclist, and I've never been against having bike lanes or a route that connects us to the Ashett-Wiltacook or any of that. But I have been against, what happened with North Street, because that is our only, we have a small downtown. It's a small strip, and it's a destination spot. And there's not a ton of available parking, in my opinion, you know. So I always thought top priority was to make it accessible to people coming to shop, dine, that kind of thing. By giving half the road over to bicycle traffic and then not enforcing those rules, which that was the big thing. You know, I used to put videos up of that all the time where you'd see people continually driving through the bike lane and bicycles and scooters on the sidewalks. So I didn't understand, it made it more confusing because they weren't enforcing anything. Some people were obeying by the new traffic pattern. Some people didn't because either they didn't know. You'd see a lot of that at night. People driving because maybe they're visiting the area, and the last time they were here that was marked as a regular travel lane. And then just recently, it's designated in front of the YMCA as parking now for drop-off and pickup. So do you know, can other businesses put signs up and say that you can do that? Or is that just for the YMCA, or how's that working?
Well, I just noticed that sign the other day. I was up on North Street at the Mass Hire, and then I stopped in to see Jim Hunt at the juvenile court. He asked me to stop in and see his office. So I stopped in. When I was coming and waiting to cross the street, I saw the sign. The business, YMCA did not put that up. It had to been somebody from the city, but that was my first time seeing it. I mean, I noticed the cars parking there waiting for pickup and stuff, but
which they
have done in the past.
Yeah, which they have to, really. I mean, how else? Well, that was the other problem I had with it. We're in such an old community that North Street wasn't designed really where you have all these buildings with loading docks in the back. Traditionally, deliveries, all that stuff is done in the front of these stores, and it made everything that much more confusing.
Yes, I mean, the whole, how you look at it is confusing for some people, but where I believe it's dangerous is it's still a travel lane. You can legally drive down that lane. It's a legal lane. A police officer cannot cite you for driving down that. They never switched it from a legal lane of, that traffic has, vehicles can go down there.
So it's still technically like in an experimental stage, or?
Well, yes, because they haven't done anything since the time frame ran out.
So what ended up happening is there was a vote on it, and two councilors weren't there, were not present. Tony Mafuccio, our Ward 7 councilor, and Earl Persip, one of our at-large councilors, were not there. So it ended up passing, 5-4?
Yes.
And it appeared what passed was that it would go on the ballot. But then 2 days later, there was an article in the local paper saying, well, no, that's not it yet. That was just a vote to send it back to the city solicitor. I thought we went that route already.
Yes, I mean, I wasn't aware of that article until I went to a fundraiser Saturday night, and people that I didn't know asked me, are you Councilor Kalinowsky? And they started talking to me, and somebody said, oh, that was a great letter to the editor. I said, I haven't written a letter to the editor. He goes, no, about the bike lanes. He goes, thank you for giving the people, a choice. So when I got home, I went online and looked up the Berkshire Eagle, and I came up with the article. I don't know where they're coming from with what they said. I've spoken to President Marchetti. I've spoken to our city attorney, and I'm not sure what they're doing. That vote, I went back and re-listened to the city council, and we did vote to put it on the ballot.
So is that what's happening?
It should be what's happening. What the attorney's supposed to be coming back to us is changing some of the wordings in the 4 sentences he gave me, because Councilor Warren brought up some good points on how it was worded, and then we just need that yes and no response. He had never added it yet. Okay. So it did need to go to them for the legal wording, but not to re-vote on placing on the ballot. They already voted. We already voted, and it passed.
That's what it appeared, and it was interesting to me, those that voted against it, some of the arguments. I didn't quite understand that either. Our Ward 6 Councilor Dina Lampiazzi said there's plenty of other more important things, but for the community to vote on, they shouldn't be voting on this. And I thought, well, why shouldn't the voters be able to vote on everything that they're paying for and it affects them? And to me, some of the arguments were and I'm not using their words, I'm using my own, how I'm summing it up, but Councilor White, Councilor Marchetti, and Councilor Lampiazzi, it was with those three, it came across more of, we know what's better for the voters than they do, because it seems like people are saying, don't let it go on the ballot, because some people that want the bike lanes there are saying that if you let it go on the ballot, we're taking a step backwards. So they're kind of admitting that the voters don't want it that way. And isn't ultimately that whose hands it should be in, is the voters? I believe yes. As I explained to a constituent that emailed me, I believe in democracy. People should be able to vote on. To me, this is something important, because it's not only affecting the residents and the people that come into our city, it's affecting all the business owners that are still on North Street. Absolutely.
This is having an effect on them. And for us to ignore them is wrong.
And if they're saying, well, this is to slow down traffic and all that, there are other ways to slow down traffic. There are other ways to improve safety. And I've never been against single lanes there either. It's just this layout it's not working, because it's a cluster of confusion. Some people adhere to those rules, some people don't, and again, there's no enforcement, so most of the bicycles and scooters, which I don't know if we'll be seeing those return, but you never know. I don't know if that company will be around anymore, but most of them are still using the sidewalks. So without the enforcement, I didn't understand the point of it anyway. And then I didn't realize that an officer could cite someone for riding on the sidewalk, couldn't they? Or
yes, that's not like it's a different type of, it's kind of like a parking ticket type ticket.
Okay.
If you ride your bike. Back in the 90s, when I was a downtown officer, we were trying to get people off the sidewalks.
What, in your opinion, why do you think some of the councilors don't want this voted on by the voters?
I think they believe kind of what I do, that the majority of the voters want it switched back.
But they don't? I don't know, I just think that's crazy, because this was a hodgepodge that they threw together.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody is against improving Pittsfield. Of course everybody lives here wants it to be better. Of course everybody wants North Street to be more accessible. We want to see it flourish and people shopping and dining and, having it be a very inviting atmosphere. This didn't do that. This upset people. It upset people when it changed a second time around. It was a little bit better than the first, but it was still like, what are you doing? And nobody had a say on it. And I just found it odd that some of the councilors were sticking to their guns on, well, it should stay in our hands and the voters shouldn't be able to decide this, because I think the voters, in my opinion, should be able to vote on everything that they are paying for.
And this is where I agree. We're going to have some expensive things coming up. The ballpark. I think the voters that should be another ballot question the voters vote on. At some point, they're still talking a police station. Right now, the number that they have out there is $50 million. Yeah, I think the voters should have a say on that, because,
Is that necessary?
The police station's bad.
I know we need a new station, but a $50 to $60 million building?
I don't know. I never saw the plans. I think it's Waynesboro or Dalton's putting one in, and it's like close to $7 million. And I realize their department is smaller. But they're putting the ambulance service in there with it, I believe. And it was just in the paper the other day that they're going to be buying the old golf course up there. I think they said it was going to be like 7 acres. So if they want to put like their highway department or something on the property, in the future.
So, in closing, then, I mean, where do we stand then? Is with this whole bike lane thing? It is going on the ballot, or is?
Well, I guess the way the Eagle reads, in the conversation I had with the president and the lawyer, I'm
President
waiting,
Marchetti?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm waiting to see on February 14th what they say.
Is the 14th a council meeting?
Yes.
Oh, it'd be a nice Valentine's Day one. We'll call it the St. Valentine's Day Massacre Part 2. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to do this. Of course, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. And to all of you out there, I will reach out to some of the other counselors again, but Councilor Kalinowsky is always super accessible, and she always messages me, so it makes it really easy when I know someone actually wants to come on the show. So, yeah. So thank you again for doing this. And obviously, you're always fielding questions from people, so
Yes.
feel free to contact Karen. If you live in the city of Pittsfield, she is your city councilor. She's at large. So I think people should really voice their opinion and be able to vote on this issue with the bike lanes. And I think you should message your counselors and let that be known. So thank you again, Karen, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you.